guys and girls. How are we doing? Took a little time off and had about a couple more weeks before I was going to start doing videos. But Joe Douglas has got me thinking in a very positive way. And I think if we look at this draft, we're able to understand Joe Douglas's plan from day one. From Adam Gase to Robert Saleh to when things were done, it's all starting to make sense to me now. The first thing we have to understand about Joe Douglas, and I think we all know this by now, is that if you think Joe Douglas is going to go out and get a sure, let's say he's a sure thing, a number one receiver, right? Maybe the best receiver in the NFL, and he wants to come to the Jets. But the one thing he's sure of, he's going to get his max deal. Is that's never, ever going to happen. It's never going to happen in the Joe Douglas era. And now we can respect that more because it never made sense in year one and year two because the Jets were in such desperate need for number ones. There was nothing in the cabinets. There was nothing to build on. You needed a quarterback. You needed a running back. You had no receivers at all, right? You had one linebacker, right? You had one linebacker. And he decides COVID, he's not going to come back. He gets injured on the first game of the season, and then the following year, the list goes on. And he learned a lesson in year two because what he did is he went out and got not the best defensive lineman in the draft, but a top guy. One single guy, and lost that guy for the season. And all that money that was spent, right down the tubes. And it probably sent Joe the signals that, no, big guy, you're right. Now, will Joe Douglas go out and sign the Lawsons? Yes, he will. There's no doubt about it. But he's never gonna break the bank for anybody. It's just not gonna happen. And sadly, I do believe For the most part, that means his own players too. But he's so smart and shrewd that he'll probably lock guys up before they hit that plateau. I could be wrong about that, but we'll see in the future. But if you think about it now, it all makes sense. Because Joe Douglas, in his system, in his way of working things, it all makes sense. It all works by the time the third year comes around. And when you have a draft coming up like we do now, where you have so many picks available, 2 1s, 2 2. You have so many picks what is it? 4 picks in the top 38. You had money to spend, and it was spent wisely. I know there's some people that are going to disagree. They wish they got the Jets are never going to go after the top flight cornerbacks. In this system, it's not going to happen, guys. So just drop that out of your equation too. That's not going to happen. But it all makes sense. It all makes sense. Every single thing is starting to make sense to me. And guys, you know that I was on the fence with Joe a lot during the season. It didn't make sense. Okay? There were certain things that just didn't make sense to me. But now looking back on it, I understand. Because now what we're entering is the strength of the GM. He had enough pieces of the puzzle put together where his strength of grabbing this guy and grabbing that guy and grabbing this guy, B+, B-, A-, C+, grabbing those kind of players makes sense now because you got, as long as he works out, we'll still have, the jury's still out, but Joe has his quarterback now, okay? And once he had his quarterback, he started to fine tune. Leaving Adam Gase in place year one was brilliant. We all said it was brilliant because we were going to suck. We were going to get a high pick. You listen to Joe, and Joe didn't sound like that at all. Joe sounded despondent. I let the team down. He kept saying, I let the team down. I let the coach down. It played out exactly the way Joe wanted. Because if you brought Robert Saleh in year one, Joe knew that you're throwing this prize coach that you really, really want. And back then, he didn't know it was going to be Saleh, whoever the coach would be. And you're throwing him under the bus year one. And you're going to probably throw him under the bus year two, because this was the game plan of Joe Douglas. Joe doesn't take a team and turn it from an F to a B in 2 years. He doesn't do that. It takes 3 or 4 years to do. If you're going to do it being fiscally responsible. So that was Joe's decision. So Joe didn't bring in his coach year one. He threw Gase under the bus. And if Gase worked out some magic with that team, so be it. But we all knew that was not going to happen. So if we knew it, Joe knew it too. So Joe knew year one was a waste, and he wasn't going to bring in a coach that was going to be going into his third year now with 2 horrendous seasons. What does Saleh have on his record right now? He has 1 bad season. But Saleh's not getting killed yet. Can you imagine if what we saw last year was the same as we saw year one, and this would be Saleh's 3rd season right now? There would be people calling for his head. So Joe did it exactly the right way. Now Saleh's got to start producing with this team. What is producing? To me, I look at this roster and the changes he's making and the draft he's about to, it's got to be 500 or better. But that's not important right now. The important thing is Joe has now entered his comfort zone. He's most comfortable having draft picks and having enough pieces of the puzzle where he's not being strangled, where he's got to pick a quarterback, he's got to pick a receiver, he's got to pick this, he's got to pick that. For the first time in Joe's era, and for a long time, when you think about it with the Jets are becoming a team that's developing depth. I mean, depth in the NFL. Not depth like we had last year in the secondary. That happening to that secondary last year was the best thing that ever happened, because all these kids have become depth. One of them is going to probably become a starter, but we'll see. You know, Marcus May is gone right now. We addressed the safety position, and we also get LaMarcus Joyner back, who I still think is a big time in their plans for him this year. I do. Now, they may go out and draft. It's possible. We'll talk about the draft in the next video. I'm not going to go draft here. This is going to be a Joe Douglas and what has happened up to this point. The next video will go into the draft deeper, which right now, if I'm just going to sneak one thing out there, the way it looks to me for the Jets right now is 4 is going to be a pass rusher and 10 is going to be a receiver. Unless somebody at 10 falls to the point where they got to have him. It may be a second pass rusher. You know? It may be a bull linebacker. I don't know what it's going to be, but the bottom line is that's my guess, is that 4 is going to be a pass rusher and 10 is good. But we're going to talk about that in the next video. So let's keep going with Joe's plan. So what does Joe do so far this year? Well, let's take a look real quick. Joe went out, and the first thing he did, which I thought was absolutely brilliant, okay, is he goes out and gets Laken Tomlinson. This guy, okay, forget about the fact that he's a really good guard. He's a nasty SOB. That's another thing that's changed a little bit. The first year, Joe was all going the whole choir boy captain routine, right? I mean, I think if we had 9 picks the first year, I think 7 or 8 of them were captains on their team. He's still going for quality. He wants good people, don't get me wrong. But if you notice, some of the signings here are nasty too, okay? And Lakeland Tomlinson is nasty, and that's what you want on that line. So if you look at our guard situation, it looks like he's going to be switched over to right guard as of now. You got Tucker, and you see the line, spreading outward. What happens with Becton? Does he come in at 350, 355? I'm going to make a prediction right now. If he comes in at 350, 355, all is good in Jetland. If he doesn't, if it's like 385, 375, 380, 385, the door is wide open that Becton may not work out with the Jets. I heard what Salah said last year when I was all over when he walked into camp, I was all over the fact. It was the first video that I made. How is Joe Douglas allowing this guy to walk into camp this heavy? He's like 390. But Joe, and they all said, "Yeah, he's a big guy. What do you know? He's a big guy. He's a big guy. He's a big guy." You didn't hear any rumbling or anything. And here we go. The guy gets injured and ends up being out the rest of the season. So my guess is you guys can correct me here. Haven't seen any pictures. Haven't heard anything. My guess is when that guy finally walks into the public eye, the next time we see him, he is going to be in incredible shape because his whole career is counting on it. Okay, so anyway, you have Becton, you have Fant, and we'll see what happens there, how that works out. But that was the first signing. The next thing we did is we brought back, hold on one second, Tomlinson, the Braxton Berrios. That one had me more concerned. I cannot believe, and I know how badly he wanted to come out with the Jets, but I cannot believe, unless they were out there and we just haven't heard about it, that there weren't teams offering $2, $3, maybe even $4 million more a year for a guy like him. A great, one of the best return guys in the league, and for a rookie quarterback that struggled so mightily. Berrios had a great year last year, and you saw signs of him getting better and better. That was a fantastic signing. I honestly thought it was less than 50-50 we'd bring him back. I didn't realize, number one, I heard him saying all the right things, but I didn't realize his being so adamant with his agent about coming back to the Jets. But to me, I thought we were going to lose him because I didn't see Joe. I did not see Joe giving him, guaranteed, not guaranteed, but giving him, let's say, $10 million a year. I didn't see it happening. But the fact that he's coming back under that contract is a steal. I wish it was 3 years, but it's 2 years, and that's the way that runs. Okay, so that's Braxton Berrios, okay? Bringing back Tevin Coleman, it's fantastic. He knows the system. He's the kind of guy, he's going to probably give you 10 games this year, 11 games this year. It's just Tevin Coleman. But, Michael Carter is our guy. So whatever pieces you add to that, and my guess is with all these draft picks, there's going to be another running back coming in, So we'll see what happens in the running back position. The tight end position, anytime you have a guy in a season like he had last year where his team went all the way to the Super Bowl, he had a career year. I don't have the stats in front of me, but it was roughly around 40, 45 catches, around 450 yards, about 5 touch. It was a really strong season. But what I'm hearing about him, when you go onto the Bengals sites, when they talk about him, is that this guy's 260 and a tough son of a bee to bring down. He is really an excellent tight end, a really, really good tight end. In yak, he's a big-time yak tight end. And that's something we're going to have to keep an eye on, especially in this system that counts on yak. And that's why I think they went after him. Will the Jets draft a tight end too? My guess is at least 80-90% chance, yes. But having him along with whoever they draft is it's such a step up. Tyler Kroft was even when Tyler Kroft was playing and was okay, but he's injured all the time anyway. Finally the Jets drafted did a good job bringing a tight end in. Okay, DJ Reed is a solid cornerback. He's another guy with an attitude. And again, we bring in a cornerback somewhere in that draft. somewhere in that draft, probably in the first 7 or 8 picks, there'll be another cornerback drafted. Okay, and the depth keeps adding up. Now, all of a sudden, the Guidrys, right? I mean, you go on with this list, and you get so much depth brought in the cornerback position, the guys that played last year, and again, this is suiting the strength of Joe Douglas, and you're seeing right now what a good GM he is by year 3. Year 1 and 2, he's not going to look beautiful because he's not going to go out and get the Mercedes and the BMWs, and he's not going to go out and get those. And when we saw the guys that he would get, we'd all laugh and say, "Oh God, I mean, at least try to get this guy." For what? For what? Instead of 3 and 14, you're going to end up at 6 and 11, maybe. Made total sense, okay? So Reed, and then he went out and got Jordan Whitehead at safety, and you're going to team him up. Whitehead is a solid safety, and you're going to team him up with LaMarcus Joyner, and I'm not going to go crazy over whether or not they're going to take. I can't see them. I don't want to get into the draft right now. We'll talk about that later. But again, you get more depth at the safety position. I really do believe it ended up being him and Joyner that end up starting, unless the Jets surprise and go safety in the draft. I don't think so. They brought back Nathan Shepard. It's a nice little signing. And they brought back Dan Feeney. Whatever. I mean, there's something about the Jets and Dan Feeney. I can't explain it. Forget about all that. So the bottom line is, what we're talking about here is, if you look at the Jets right now, if I were to look at the Jets, and I'm going to really try to close the blinders, okay, what do I envision? Man, I'd still love to have an elite number 1 receiver. And I think that's going to be the 10th pick in the draft. I really, really do. They all keep saying about this draft, is not, as strong as far as receivers are concerned and all this other nonsense, but and it's accurate. There isn't a top 3 receiver in the NFL guy here possibly, but there's a lot of really good receivers in this draft. Don't let them fool you. This is a really strong. I think it's a strong receiver draft. It just doesn't have the elite guy. Okay, and what does that mean? What does that mean, elite guy? When the draft happens, my guess is there are so many strong receivers here, there will be elite guys that come out of this draft. There's just not your quote-unquote sure things, okay? So when I look at the Jets, that's the first thing that pops in my head. The second thing that pops in my head is, gosh, I hope that all works out with the offensive line. And it should. I'm not going to even get into Zach right now, okay? So right now, receiver. That's I got in my head receiver. I'm going right over the defensive end. On the defensive side of the ball, you're never, ever going to let me ever forget the way teams ran through our defensive line last year. So that, Lawson will be returning, and that's going to help the pass rush. But the bottom line is there's going to have to be something done to really shore up that D line to make sure that running game stops. That was the one thing the Jets could count on shit years, on good years, is that teams didn't run on us. That was horribly embarrassing last year. So shore up the D line and linebacker help. Okay? Linebacker help. So, if you ask me, it's pass rusher, it's receiver, it's 10. There's going to be a linebacker, okay? And one more secondary guy, wherever he may fit in that equation. And I believe that will probably be your first and second round picks. Okay? One more time. Receiver, not in this order, because I really think it'll be pass rusher, receiver, linebacker, secondary. And I believe that'll be your first 4 picks in the draft. Could be wrong, but there's so many picks. There's so many more picks. Then after that, you got a 3rd pick, and then you got 4th pick, 2 4th rounds, and 2 5th rounds, and I was figuring out day-wise. We have great days ahead of us, okay? the way the draft works in the NFL, with the way they televise it, right? You got first round is the first round, right? But we got 2 picks, right? So we got we got the 4th and the 10th. We got enough space in between so we can digest everything, and then we got our 10th pick. So our first night is set. Our second night is really, really set. We get 2 seconds and a third, right? So now we've got 3 picks on the second night. And then the last day, we've got 2 fourths and 2 fifths. The 6th and the 7th, by then we're falling asleep. We don't even care. So we got 2 fourths and 2 fifths. And this is going to be a special, special ass draft. It really, really is. This is the draft. This is the draft that'll set up the future for the Jets going forward. So again, one last time. Pass rusher, receiver, linebacker, or another pass rush, and secondary. And that's what I see them doing as far as the draft is early. And then after that, you're going to see your offensive linemen. You're going to see your offensive linemen. You're going to see maybe a little more secondary help, a tight end, That might be in the 3rd round. That'll be interesting to see if they do that in the 3rd round. And that's where I see everything right now, guys. So leave comments. Great to be back. The videos are going to be flying out now. I mean, flying out. We're going to do a draft. We're going to break it down. First round, second round. First, we're going to do it exactly the way they're going to do the draft night. I'm going to do the first round. Then we'll do the second round, third round, and then we'll do 4 through 7. Okay? And as one little thing I'm going to throw out there. Kicker. Joe, don't forget the kicker. Don't forget the kicker. And that's it. Great to be back, man. I am pumped. I am pumped. And it's great to break down, again, the meaning, the reason I did this video. And you guys know it, okay? I am not a Joe Douglas homer. Is that it's starting the way he drafts and the way he signs free agents is starting to make sense because now he's in his comfort zone. He doesn't want to go out and get A+, A+, A+. And that's what everybody wanted the first year because we were miserable. And by the second year, we wanted 6 A+. And we had all this cap space, right? But now we have enough. We have enough to work with where Joe's in his comfort zone. And you see him bringing in real quality, good players, strong players, okay? But he wants his superstars from the draft. That's what Joe Douglas is all about, and don't ever forget it. He wants his A+ players to come in from the draft. That's the cheapest way to get them, in his opinion, in our opinion too. So it makes most sense. Great to be here, guys. Really excited. Don't know what else to say. I think that's it. We're going to wrap it up. A lot of good stuff coming up this year, which I'll discuss with you guys. And I'll give you a list of the whole guest thing, which we're going to start doing in the end of April, May, which will be once a week. I'll give you the whole schedule, everything that's going on. But we're going to have a lot of good things, a lot of fun things to catch up on. Thanks for letting me in your computer hard drive. Now, boot me out. Have a great day. Thanks a lot.